MarzGurl.
I'm JoshKnightTheFirst.
And welcome to episode 82 of MokkoriPlay, the only podcast dedicated solely to all things City Hunter.
On today's podcast, we're going to cover Season 2, Episode 31 of City Hunter, titled, So Long, My Friend, The Last Shot Echoing in My Heart, Part 1.
Did we say we needed to do more research on this episode?
No, I think we've got everything we need, but we are going to cover a lot this week.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure. Now, we were kind of talking about it at the end of last week's episode, that we've got a character here that actually shows up in the anime first, and later influences a character that will show up and be even more important in the manga.
Right, so here in this episode, we're going to introduce you guys to one Mr. Robert Harrison, who will later go on and basically, all of what makes Robert Harrison will be retaken by Tsukasa Hojo and turned into the character of Mick Angel.
They're basically the exact same guy with a slightly different name, but there's a lot more narrative weight that's put onto Mick Angel. And Robert here only exists for these 2 episodes, for this 2-parter, in the case of this anime.
Well, he exists for these 2 episodes, but he will affect later episodes of the anime.
Someone will come back and have things to do with him later.
Yes.
But he himself won't be there.
For reasons.
For reasons which we'll get to next week.
But you're here this week, which means we need to give you this week's podcast, so let's go ahead and start doing that.
Right now.
So, okay, we're starting off this week here at, let me see here, setting. All right, this week it's the damn docks again.
There's not really a reason to be here. I guess just to have a meeting. I guess Ryo is waiting for some kind of a meeting that we're just gonna assume that he already knows about because the narrative is not telling us. He's driven up to the docks in his Mini Cooper. He's standing out looking at the water and the boats and the cool city lights and stuff. But
then suddenly he hears the new type
something.
noise.
He hears a guy.
Well,
he hears a gun and he...
Well, first he hears that new type, he hears the new type noise first.
Yeah.
And then someone starts shooting at him. And so they're returning fire, they're ducking behind things, they're having a little shootout here, and the other guy seems to get Ryo off his guard, drops a bolt from somewhere, like just a piece of machinery on the ground. Ryo turns to look at where it was dropped.
Just kind of a distraction.
And dude gets the drop on him.
Except, no, he doesn't, because Ryo is pointing his gun behind his back because he knew that this guy was going to be there. And this guy is Robert
Harrison, the guy we just told you about. Well, he's already here.
Yeah, this whole thing is about him. He's a very white man, very blonde, very blue-eyed, and he's from Los Angeles.
And he prefers to use a Walther as his sidearm, which is different from Mick Angel, who preferred using a Desert Eagle. And for those of you who can't tell the difference between those guns, a Walther is what James Bond normally uses. A Desert Eagle is normally what Spike Spiegel uses.
A Walther is also what Lupin III uses.
Yeah, you're right. It's Lupin's gun.
There's a whole song about this.
There's a whole song about that, you're right. But this isn't a Lupin podcast, thankfully.
No, I don't think I could do that. I think that would be too much.
That's too much.
That's too much of a particular thing, and we've already got more media than you would imagine there actually exists of City Hunter. It's too much.
So the two of them basically were just having a duel for funsies here on the dock.
This actually translates over into the manga later. This was what, 1988? Was this still 88? So Mick Angel doesn't show up until 1991. Okay,
right.
Early 91. It looks like Hojo was probably drawing it at the end of 1990 and then it got published in 1991. So then Mick Angel, in his chapter where he shows up, Kaori actually brings him back home to the apartment and she's like, "Hey Ryo, I brought a friend of yours." And then suddenly they just start shooting at each other in the apartment and they blow the apartment to shit. But then they're like, "Hey man, good to see you again." And they're laughing it up, but they've blown the shit out of the entire apartment. So it's generally speaking the same vibe
as what's going to happen here in this episode.
Right.
Yeah.
As what has just happened here in this episode. They're shooting at each other, but they're doing it because, hey, this is what we fun guys like to do, is shoot at each other just to see if we're still skilled, as we are both sweepers. This guy, Robert, is also an American sweeper.
He's considered the #1 sweeper in America.
In fact, apparently, at one point, both he and Ryo were partners.
Yes, and we'll get to that later once it's divulged here in the story. But here, Robert's trying to ask Ryo, hey, so what are you doing? You want to take me out on the town? I figured you'd be my guide in Tokyo now that I'm here. And Ryo's like, no, I can't do that, man. I got a big job tomorrow I really got to prepare for.
And he's like, no, you don't. Unless the lady's really hot. Is she hot? Because he knows. He knows Ryo's not going to pick up a job unless it's a lady.
Because one thing we need to establish right here, right now, is that Robert is basically just American Ryo.
They're extremely similar to each other. It's weird. Robert is designed to be even dressed not too dissimilarly from Ryo.
Like, he's wearing similar colors, too.
It's mostly the color palette, yeah.
He's wearing a slightly darker shade of blue, like he's wearing a two-piece suit. He's got a white button-up, but he's wearing a red ascot. So the red and blue on top is very similar to the red shirt and blue blazer that Ryo is always wearing.
They have similarly strong faces, obviously one guy is white and the other guy is Japanese, and their hairstyle is just kind of slightly different. But I don't know, something about the both of these guys is like, yeah, you two hang out together.
Yeah, you can sense that they are kindred spirits.
Yeah.
So they go to this local bar so that they can discuss the case.
Right.
And Ryo reveals, well, it's actually a pretty high-profile client that I've got this week. It's the princess of another Fakeland.
Another princess of Fakeland, yeah.
So this week, it's Princess Angela of the Feladon Kingdom.
And where is that?
Go ahead and hit us up over on Twitter if you can guess where Feladon is. If you get it right, no, you didn't.
It's weird how he describes it like, oh, well, Feladon has been going through civil war for like 10 years, and the king just died, so she's taken over. And I'm like, so do you mean she's the queen now?
Well,
how is she still the princess?
So normally the way this works is that, kind of like what we saw over in Britain not too long ago, when the king dies or when the main monarch dies, the other person doesn't immediately take over. There has to be like
a coronation.
Well, yeah, there has to be a coronation. There has to be all this other stuff that gets done first before they can make that fully official.
Okay, so there's just not really a real leader for a while.
Well, she's basically the de facto leader for right now.
Okay, I don't live in a monarchy. Also, fuck the monarchy.
Yeah.
So, whatever. Do what you want, I guess.
So the reason she's meeting here in Japan is because it's neutral territory. What she's going to do is meet up with the guerrillas in the country, who are the other side of the Civil War, and see if she can't broker a peace talk.
Seems risky, but fine. She's trying to do whatever it takes to stop this war that's been ravaging her country for a decade.
And so Ryo immediately asks Robert, hey man, I ain't seen you in forever. It'd be great if we work together. We'll split this right down the middle, you and me. And I'm like, Ryo, don't you already have to split this with somebody? Your other partner?
Yeah, isn't this gonna be a 33.3 repeating situation?
Because Ryo, I don't know if you remember here, bro, you have a partner. And she's at home right now waiting on your ass.
Yeah, why don't we go out for more drinks? We're not going straight home.
Well, no, we're gonna have a fight first over why Ryo would take the job because he's just so into women. And then Ryo yells back at Robert, oh yeah? Well, you've got a lowly complex and an Oedipus complex, so what the hell's your problem?
That actually does sound worse, okay?
It does sound worse.
He is both a motherfucker and likes children. That does seem worse than Ryo's women problems.
But we're not going to think about that right now, because we're showing up right here at Kabukicho, because we can see the main red sign there.
Right, and we see all the neon lights, and we see that they've gone to a very specific bar. This bar does come up a few times. It also comes up in the stage play, the Takarazuka stage play.
Is it the same one, Neko Manma?
Neko Manma, yeah. It's the same one.
Yeah, so it's basically a cabaret club where all the women there dress in cat ears.
Ryo's got a type, I guess, and that type is cat girls. So, Ryo likes cat girls.
He likes
Who
the
knew?
cosplay.
Yeah. And so now, I almost called him Mick. No, Robert. Robert and Ryo are fighting right now over, hey, I can pick up more chicks. No, I can pick up more chicks. No, you're a sex pest piece of shit. No, you're a sex pest piece of shit. And then the next thing they know, the girls are saying goodbye to them because they're out of money. They're not going to serve them anymore. And I don't know what these guys thought was going to happen. They're not there thinking they're hot stuff, like these women are gonna come home with them or go to a hotel with them.
You dumbass, they just want your wallet.
They literally do this to get paid. This is their job. What are you doing?
How is it that this has gone on for so many years and people still think, nah man, when they say they're into me, it's gonna be the real deal. No, man, they
Men
want you
are
to buy.
dumb.
They want you to buy more bottle service, man.
Don't fall for it. Like, hopefully people go to these places and it feels good for that night, and then they realize the next day, well, that was what it was. That it was what I paid for. So.
Yeah, it's what you paid for. It's a transaction.
Yeah.
But at this point, Robert and Ryo are pretty sloshed, Ryo more so seemingly, and they're just gonna sing a little ditty on the way back to the apartment.
And they're singing very specifically, you might know it in America and other countries in the West as Sukiyaki, but the actual Japanese name of the song is Ue o muite aruko, which is just the first line of the song.
If you don't think you've heard it, you might have heard the melody before, you know, Ue o muite aruko. And that song's been getting around since, like, what, the 60s?
Yeah, 1961, it actually got extremely popular American radio airplay, which is probably why they've made this decision for Robert to be aware of this song, because it actually got American airplay, and I can't think of, maybe somebody else will be able to point something else out to me, but I genuinely cannot think of another Japanese language song that has made hit radio airplay.
I was almost gonna say Simple and Clean, but no, we translated that.
It got radio airplay in the United States?
I mean, if you count Radio Disney.
No, I do not.
All right, because we all know Radio Disney is not real music.
It's also not available around the country. It's only available in, like, Florida, California, like where there's Disney
where there is a
parks.
park. Yeah.
Also, I just want to point out, Sukiyaki is just such a racist name that we renamed this song to.
Oh yeah, it's awful.
Because the guy was like, we can't just call it Ue o muite aruko. Nobody's gonna know what that is.
Because literally what that title means is, as I was walking, I looked up.
And as the song continues, it's, I look up when I walk to keep the tears from running down my face.
Like it's a sad song.
It's a really sad song, actually. And the producer who changed the name of the song is like, let's just call it Sukiyaki, because that's a food I like. And I'm what the fuck, my guy? Now that's what it's known as? Isn't there another cover of that song that came out, what, like the 90s or something?
I remember, I don't remember exactly, but I remember a snippet of it being sung in Will Smith's song So Fresh when it was Biz Markie singing it, and he was covering somebody else, and I forget who it was. Somebody will correct me on that, I hope. It's the same melody, but the lyrics have been changed to, it's all because of you. Feeling sad and blue, and it goes on from there. So yeah, the song has gotten around.
Anyway, Robert knows this song.
And Robert and Ryo are singing it on the way back to the apartment.
They're very drunk.
It's great. And so Ryo's just banging on his own door like, hey, Kaori, open up the door. I got friends.
She lets him in, but she's mad. What are you doing?
Like, you know what time of night it is?
You know, what are you doing coming home all drunk and loud, and cut it out?
And Ryo's like, nah, come on, meet my friend. And Robert's like, hello.
In English, hello.
And Kaori is instantly like, oh, a man.
And he's treating her pretty nicely, too.
Like, he immediately starts by, well, hello, nice to meet you there, miss.
Wow, Robert doesn't misgender people.
Wow. So that's already points in Kaori's book.
Yeah.
And Ryo's just kind of chilling on the couch as Robert is telling Kaori all their backstory, how 5 years ago there was a case in LA involving stolen plutonium that the FBI couldn't handle.
Really? The FBI couldn't do it?
Yeah,
really?
the American FBI could not handle the stolen plutonium case, so they had to call in Robert Harrison and City Hunter.
Wait a minute. No, I was gonna say, does this line up with Back to the Future? But no, Back to the Future is 1985, and I'm just like, well, wait, how long ago did they steal the plutonium before Back to the Future happened, though?
Not too long after, because, like...
It'd be like a difference of 2 years or something?
No, it's not the same stolen plutonium. It couldn't be.
I'm just saying, did Ryo solve the case of the missing plutonium that went into the DeLorean?
No, because Doc used up all the plutonium.
And then Ryo found that out, and he reported it back to Robert, who reported it back to the FBI.
That's some other kind of headcanon.
I'm just making shit up.
Okay,
Anyway,
all right.
I just thought it was interesting, too, like, I went back and I read the one-shot manga that Tsukasa Hojo initially wrote and drew to kind of be the launching pad for what would eventually be the serialization of City Hunter in Shonen Jump. So this one-shot manga is significantly different in a lot of ways from what it ends up becoming in the manga and in the anime, but Hojo really wanted this to take place in America for a while. He says so in the publication of when it finally made it to tankobon, to a physical book publication, and you can see in the first few pages of that first chapter, you see a Ryo that is in America, and he's at a shooting range, and he's looking like, who am I thinking of? Turd Ferguson. What am I?
Oh, Burt Reynolds?
Burt Reynolds. He's got a very Burt Reynolds kind of a look about him.
I'm trying not to laugh.
Turd Ferguson.
Yes, Turd Ferguson. Yeah, what do you want?
Yeah, what do you want?
You buzzed in. No, I didn't.
No, I did. He's just drawn really Western. He's got these boot-looking kind of shoes, and I don't know. Anyway, I'm just saying this because Tsukasa Hojo, I feel like a lot of his Western action influence really comes through in that first initial chapter. It's coming through right now in this anime, even though, this episode was not originally created by Tsukasa Hojo. This is original to the anime.
To Sunrise.
And then, to Sunrise Animation, and then gets reborrowed back into Tsukasa Hojo's manga 2 years later. It's crazy. This is insane.
So yeah, Ryo and Robert did all this crazy shit in America, and Kaori's like, wow, that's great that you guys are doing that. And also, Robert, yeah, you're kind of charming, ain't you? That's so, wow, your eyes are so blue, you wow. And she's just kind of taken with Robert right now. And then before they can respond back and say anything else and continue the conversation, immediately both Robert and Ryo look at each other from across the room like, oh shit, something's about to go down.
They know there's gonna be bullets. Guess what? There's bullets. Suddenly bullets come flying in through the window, and Ryo immediately jumps to save Kaori. Mind you, this is immediately after a conversation where Ryo is like, well, fine, Robert, if you really like someone that you can call a girl like that, who always hits me with a hammer. But, clearly, that doesn't actually matter to him. He's talking a bunch of shit because immediately the person he wanted to protect in this situation was Kaori.
Well, because we've seen it happen too many times now. When shit hits the fan, Ryo's immediate first reaction is make sure Kaori's protected.
Right.
That's his whole motivation. We can't forget that. The show won't let us. And so these guys are firing from across the street from that same rooftop that everybody fires in on Ryo's living room from. And unfortunately, there is a casualty. Robert's fine. Kaori's fine. Ryo is fine. They took out the picnic table, Kaylin.
That picnic table that we always make fun of. Ryo, your decor is so strange. Your breakfast dinner table, the meal table of your apartment is a picnic table. Well, I guess it's not anymore. But I bet you they're going to replace that table, and we're going to see that table again. Just like he keeps replacing Mini Coopers.
What episode is this?
82?
82. Rest in peace. Picnic table, episode 1 to episode 81 of City Hunter.
Well, technically, episode 82 is where
No,
it
82.
dies.
No, you're right.
82 is where it dies.
82 is where it died. You will be sorely missed, and your replacement from Costco will be here on Monday.
When did Costco start doing business in Japan?
Oh.
Forget it. That's
We're not going to look
important.
that up. We're not going to look that up right now. So eventually, the guys on the other roof, and there's only 3 of them, but they're all dressed in, sunglasses, long black coats, hats and curly hair, and the main dude, who, again, isn't named, looks like he was drawn by Leiji Matsumoto.
They all
again.
look very long.
Yeah, very
long
elongated
dudes.
face, elongated limbs, so they don't look like they belong with City Hunter art.
Art director's different this week again. Woo!
Yeah, it's great. So they finish firing, and they're like, all right, we've sent our message. Let's get out of here. And Ryo's like, well, I guess I got the message. They're going to try and shoot at us tomorrow. All right, I'm going to need your help, partner. And he's not talking
to Kaori.
No, he's talking to Robert.
Because they've been partners before. It's interesting we do not focus on Kaori being like, but I thought I was your partner. I guess she's just not offended by this.
Well, no, because you look at her face in this very shot when they're bringing this up, and she's just traumatized by this rain of gunfire.
Well, yeah, so maybe she's not even paying attention to
she
what
probably
they're
didn't
talking
even
about.
hear that. Her ears might still be ringing from the gunshots.
Entirely possible. She's clearly spooked, and we don't see her again for a little while.
For a little bit, yeah. But it's the next morning, and we're heading back to Tokyo International International Airport, and we see Robert and Ryo walking through, and right now Ryo's trying to nurse a hangover, but we're not going to talk about his hangover right now. We got to talk about the set dressing here at the airport this week.
We've got some background stuff going on. There's a big old picture of, like, Mount Fuji in the background, because when you fly into Narita, obviously, this is a big international airport, so they want you to be able to see, look at all the sites you can visit, tourism.
Please visit our country.
Which you just had. Thank you. Visit more shit. So above this big old picture of Mount Fuji, it should be saying, like, travel Japan or whatever, but the Japanese don't always know the difference between the letter V and the letter B, so travel became travel Japan.
So that was pretty funny. But then we look around the people that are walking around Ryo, and I see one guy off on the left-hand side of the screen, and he's very clearly wearing a gray suit, unbuttoned, with a dark red shirt, and I'm like, I know it's not. I know there's no way it could be. Is that Kazuma Kiryu up in the corner right here?
It looks very similar.
Is that the Dragon of Dojima?
But to be fair, in Yakuza 0, that's not the suit he wears, and it's about...
Until the end of Yakuza 0.
Yeah, but is it still 1988 then?
It would be post 88. Like, if the game only takes place over a couple of weeks, then yeah, by the end of 88, he's wearing his traditional clothing, so that could have been... I mean, I know it's not, but let me dream that it was Kiryu.
It takes place till January 1989, so no!
Oh, no, wait, you're 89. Okay, no, so it's not him. Damn.
Nope.
Alright, there's no way it could be him. I mean, there was no way to begin with.
Maybe Kiryu saw a guy and is like, I'd like to wear that suit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, he just saw it from across the way and he was like, that's rad. But the funnier thing is that they keep walking and Ryo's just trying to keep, I guess, his breakfast down. And they're walking past the food court here at the airport. And, you know, if you've ever been to an airport, there's certain staple fast food restaurants you see in there.
Well, one that we see in the background here, it's McDonaldo.
So it's spelled out here in Roman alphabet, MaCuDNALDO.
McDonaldo, which clearly it's supposed to be McDonald's, but also it's really similar to the pronunciation of the full name of McDonald's in Japanese, which if you just phonetically sound it out is Makudonarudo. But although that is way too many syllables to say, so usually people just say Makudo. Or
Macdos,
I ended up calling it Macdos all the time with my other friends in school. So I say that to say, clearly, it's supposed to be another knockoff McDonald's.
Yeah, so a little bit of Japanese lesson here. If you're ever trying to find one in Japan, all you have to say is Makudo wa doko, and it's a really slangy way of saying it, but it will essentially...
Slangy and super rude, but sure, they'll be like, I guess foreigner who only wants to eat McDonald's. Go for it.
Look, it works, alright? It's like the Sharingan. It works.
McDonaldo.
But Ryo can't think about eating Macdos right now because he's trying not to throw up, and he's still trying not to throw up as they go into the meeting with the guy who's making sure that the princess is secure, and it's this guy from that country, from Fakeland, by the name of General Marukido. And there's a short little guy, he's kind of going bald, and he just gives off this vibe of he's up to some shit. And so he makes Ryo and Robert sign a contract saying, okay, we agree to be the bodyguards for the princess. He doesn't want them to be bodyguards, and he says specifically that the princess asked for them specifically
by name
because they're the head sweepers from their respective countries.
Although I was pretty sure that she only asked for Ryo, and Ryo just kind of brought him in.
Well, like, no, you're right, but she recognizes Robert when he gets in there.
That is true. She recognizes him, and she's fine with it. She's heard of their great work, so, you know, I guess that's fine.
It was kind of funny. When we see the contract on the table, we can see written out in cursive, I guess Ryo knows cursive, he signed his name in English.
Ryo Saiba, and Robert also signed his name in cursive. Of course, he would know cursive, I guess. The rest of the letter is written in, I don't know, something that looks like it's mimicking Arabic.
Right, but
maybe?
I'm pretty sure they didn't know Arabic, and I'm 90% sure they didn't research it, so I'm guessing they just kind of faked it.
Entirely possible. I would believe it.
So the princess comes in, and of course she is very beautiful, and Ryo immediately wants to put the moves on her, and Robert just keeps pulling his Walther on him. Like, don't do that.
No,
don't
no,
do
man,
that.
don't touch her. Even though know Robert definitely also wants to put moves on women. It's just that his tactic is completely different. His tactic is far smoother. He's not trying to actively assault the women, but he definitely wants to put moves on these women.
And so Ryo's like, no, don't worry, I'll be fine. Like, he's looking like he's about to throw up, but then as soon as the princess comes in, they do this thing they do a lot in the show where he immediately snaps to, like, good-looking Ryo. Like, prim and proper put together Ryo.
Mm-hmm. There's not even a transition animation, really. He just snaps up immediately and just straightens right up. Suddenly he's sober and is completely over his hangover.
And so the princess reiterates to them why she's there. They only have to take care of her for like a day because these peace talks are going to happen tomorrow at an unknown location. They haven't disclosed it yet. But for right now, she is now in their care since they've signed the contract. So the general leaves the room, but he gives this really knowing look at the princess.
He's like, okay, great, I'm gonna go arrange for our transportation now, or whatever it is, and he walks out the door, and it's just kind of like, that's really weird that he decided to leave all of us in the room together. Oh my god, here comes these guys again!
And so a grenade gets lobbed through the window, and everybody's got to haul ass out of the room.
Whams! Everybody runs. The explosion's pretty big. They've gone out into the hallway, and the explosion does kind of trail behind them for some distance.
And we see now that the Black Hat guys that were trying to shoot at Ryo and Robert last night are already here at the airport, and so now we've got this extended gun battle as they're trying to get out of the airport.
It's weird that the airport doesn't go into lockdown over this, but okay. They have to run out onto the tarmac, like they're trying to protect this princess, and Ryo is like, Robert, you've got to go get the car, and Robert's like, okay, and meanwhile, Ryo is just headshotting dudes.
Yeah, he headshots at least 2 dudes and 3 guys he got in the chest, but he gets a headshot for sure, and Robert gets a headshot on these guys.
These are bloodless headshots, because, this is Sunrise. Sunrise is mostly kind of keeping the violence out of this. As a reminder, the manga has a lot more violence than the anime
way more.
does. The anime is very nerfed by comparison.
But you can see the way that they're still animating their heads whipping back.
Oh yeah, for sure. These are definite headshots. They just didn't want to draw blood.
So General Marukita pulls up with his town car, like, all right, princess, get in, we gotta get you to safety, just as Robert is pulling up with the Mini.
The princess really trusts Robert and Ryo, and she gets in, and the general is like, no, they're just gonna blow your car up. It's much safer in my car. And Ryo is like, oh no, you don't, sir. You're getting in the car with us. Just shoves this guy in, and they start to drive off. But these dudes in the black hats and coats are still firing at them on the tarmac.
And they're just shooting the ever-loving hell out of the Mini.
All shot up, although the Mini apparently still drivable.
Somehow.
The windows are all shot out, the rear view mirrors are gone, the seats are kind of blown apart a little bit. Somehow the general has decided, I'm going to stick my face out the window of this car at the men who are shooting at me. He just starts screaming at them, hey you morons, it's me! Don't shoot me, you idiots!
And they don't. They stop shooting.
That sure is weird.
And they let him go. And at this point, if I was Ryo, I'd have just pulled my gun out on the general.
I know. I don't know why he waits this long. It's clear that Ryo knows, but it's weird that he has decided, I think I'm gonna wait to get some confirmation on this one. I mean,
that's all the confirmation you need right there. He gave that little look at the princess, left the room, and then in comes the grenade, followed by all these dudes shooting at them. And then more dudes are shooting at you on the tarmac. He tells them to stop, and they stop? And you don't think that's sus.
And so the general wants them to drive up to, what is this building?
The consulate.
The consulate. But the princess doesn't want to be at the consulate. The princess wants to be wherever Ryo and Robert are.
Because clearly the princess has more sense to be like, no, if they knew where we were at and they were able to like get that close to killing me for the last 10 minutes, I'm not going here.
Very smart, actually. So instead they go to, it's Hotel Sun City, right?
Yeah, back to Hotel Sun City.
Great, we go here all the time.
Ryo must have like reward points here at Hotel Sun City.
He must.
And so they're up in this suite way high up in Sun City, and the princess is trying to look out at the view like, oh my god, Tokyo's so pretty. And Ryo's like, stop that, somebody could shoot you.
I mean, he's not wrong.
No, that's very dumb to be looking out the window when there could be snipers.
You just had a grenade lobbed at you through a window. Like, let's not do this again.
And so it's here that the princess fills us in on how bad it really is over in Fakeland right now, that the country is in terrible poverty, war's been going on for so long. along. The people deserve better. And she wants these peace talks to go through. It's just really hard because of the guerrillas trying to kill her. Because they're probably the ones who got her dad.
If anybody tries to kill you, it would sure make anything really hard, I guess.
And so as she's there, Ryo's trying to reassure her everything's going to be all right. And then Robert invites himself back into the room to be like, okay, hallway is secure, but inside here with you, princess, isn't secure because I left you in here with a dangerous guy.
Oh, it's Ryo. And it's true because suddenly, hey, how did my pants get down on the floor from around my waist?
Suddenly...
That sure is weird. Gravity sure is a thing.
There's so much royalty in here. We have the Princess of Fakeland, and I'm king of the no pants.
I get jokes.
And so does the princess, because she's laughing that Ryo has dropped his pants. I think she thought he was trying to make a joke.
Which, I mean, I think that's the best way to play it off, honestly. She wasn't scared by it or anything.
She's like, oh, that's cute. He tried to make me laugh. And it's like, no, he wants to bone.
It's okay. She's like, nobody got hurt. Let's just let her think that's what it was. That's fine.
Look, let's just put her to bed. It's fine. let the princess go to sleep, and we'll take care of things from here. Meanwhile, out around the town, the guys in the black coats are driving around, listening to orders from the general, trying to find out which hotel the princess is in. And it's like, we know they're working together. You didn't have to tell us. I mean,
they are sticking on this for a very long time. Like, why are you trying to make it like, oh my god, is it the general is working with these dudes? I don't know why that's a thing.
So the next day rolls around, and now it's time to get the princess to where we need her to go. And there's going to be a meeting specifically in this mountain villa in the area of Okutama.
So Okutama is a real place. It is within Tokyo Prefecture. It's just not actually in Tokyo City. So it's like, you know how New York is a thing, okay? Like, New York is a state, but it's also a city. Like, a prefecture is basically a state, okay? And so New York may be the big city that everybody knows, but New York State, like, okay, Tokyo's also a state. It's a prefecture. And then this place, what is the name of place again?
Okutama.
Okutama is north of Tokyo City, okay? And it's all green and mountainy, and there's a real famous bridge and a lake and a river, and lots of stuff has been filmed there before in the past.
Yeah, in the Showa era, a lot of tokusatsu properties filmed there. They still do, but not as often. But anytime you see, like, this old red bridge in older shows, like,
right,
like Kamen Rider V3 or what have you, that's where that's going on.
That's the place. Anyway, they gotta drive all the way up there. They're going to have to drive all the way up there later to have this meeting so that they can have these peace talks at some villa all the way up there, and that's supposed to happen.
But before that can happen, Ryo has to hash it out with Robert, like, I see what you're doing. You've made the plan for today, and you've got the princess all to yourself. I ain't down with that. So we're gonna have you sign a contract, sir.
Why do you need me to sign a contract? Well, because I hear Americans sign contracts for everything. So you're gonna sign a contract saying you're not gonna have boner times with the princess.
This Mokkori prohibition contract. It's quid pro quo. You sign it, I sign it. Nobody gets no Mokkori, because I know you're into people like the princess.
And Robert actually denies it. No, I'm not. I like Kaori. Wait, why did I say that? He just blurts this thing out. And this is another part of his personality that does carry over into Mick Angel in the manga. Mick Angel falls for Kaori pretty hard, actually.
Yeah. And so here, just as he says, no, I like girls like Kaori. Kaori's like, somebody call my name? And now she's here in the nice business office dress that she wears sometimes.
Her face is drawn all cute. Her eyes are all big and shiny. And she's looking kind of pretty, actually. And now they're both like, nothing is happening. Just guys being guys. Oh, we're just best friends in here. They do, like, the Predator from the movie The Predator. You son of a bitch.
They do that kind of handshake. Like, all right, we're both agreeing not to say anything because we don't want to ruin this for either one of us.
Oh, what's this Mokkori prohibition contract? It is nothing. Nothing at all. You
don't look at that.
Nothing is here. I don't even know what Mokkori prohibition contract.
Hey, look who's downstairs. Because at this very moment, the guys in the black coats have finally figured out they're at Hotel Sun City, so now it's time to put the plan into action. So we see two people go down to the lobby, one that obviously looks like Ryo, and somebody who looks like the princess, just wearing hats.
Just hats, like, oh yes, hats. No one will notice us in hats. I'm just joking, like, wait a minute. Those people are wearing hats. The only people who can wear hats are us, the 3 dudes in the black hats and coats. Get those 2 wearing hats.
And so the 2 people, who are obviously Ryo and another person, jump into the Fiat.
Into Kaori's car.
And then take off.
And Ryo is driving it.
And we see very quickly that is not in fact the princess. That is just Kaori done up to look like the princess. So she's
a little bit.
A decoy once again.
And they're driving. Unfortunately, the guys in the black hats and the coats and everything else, they have seen Kaori and Ryo, and they take chase immediately. So they immediately know. Maybe that was the point. Maybe the point was to draw a little bit of attention. Just enough attention to get them to be followed away from the hotel.
And so there's a chase here on the highway, and they're shooting at the panda, and unfortunately, the back window gets blown out.
And I think it shoots through the front window as well.
Oh,
because
no, you're right.
By the end of the episode, we see the front window is definitely shattered.
And so Kaori's pissed, and Ryo's like, all right, I gotta return fire. And Kaori's like, no, I got this.
For some reason, Kaori has an entire bazooka? I guess she was keeping it in the car?
She just had it in end space, because I didn't see it in the back seat.
No, it's just, I guess she just keeps it where she keeps hammers.
Exactly. And so she goes out the sunroof and then shoots back at the guys in the other car, and they're like, wait a minute, that's not the princess? Well, screw it, kill him anyway.
Just kill him anyway. We're just out for blood right now. Just finish this job.
And so the Fiat's taking more fire, and Kaori's like, they're still shooting at us. Can you do something about this? And Ryo's like, all right, fine. And without even looking, he just points behind him.
But he's looking in the rear view mirror, okay? The driver's rear view mirror. To shoot behind him through the already busted open glass. To shoot these guys.
And just one shot takes out the hood of the car. It flies open. They can't see where they're going, and they crash into like a little safety guardrail area.
Which, is about the safest thing that could have happened. I really wanted it to explode into flames, but all it did was smoke, and then these guys have to crawl out of the car, and they're mostly fine. I mean, except for the fact that Ryo backed up, got out of the car, and pointed his gun right at their faces, but otherwise they're fine.
And so Ryo needs some information. He's like, all right, I got you here at gunpoint. You're gonna tell me right now who you work for.
Okay, I'll tell you. It was the gorilla guys that are trying to get the princess killed. And Ryo is like, oh, that is not a good enough answer. I need specifics. And he fires at this guy, knocking the glasses off of his face with the bullet. But the bullet also has grazed his face right next to his eye. So, like, he is not fucking around.
Like, he's bleeding now, this guy. And Ryo's like, no, I said for you to tell me the truth. Who hired you?
Okay, it was the general. Jesus Christ, man.
I knew it.
Yes, you knew it.
Yes, it was so obvious.
We all knew this.
We all done been known.
And also, the villa's not safe, clearly, because that's where the general wants you to go. And he said that if this whole plan to assassinate the princess didn't work out, we're just gonna blow up the whole villa. Just the whole place is gonna go up in flames, and everybody's gonna die. Everybody dies. So Ryo and Kaori are like, ah, shit. They are already on their way there in the Mini Cooper, which is still, like, all shot up. But apparently it still drives.
Yeah, but Robert has made it to the villa with the princess, and the general's already there in the trees with the head of the black coats to be like, ha, I guess our guys failed. Good thing we still have a backup plan. And I don't want to miss this. During that gunfight here on the freeway, there was some really sick bass music going on.
Yeah, it was really weird. Like, oh, I didn't want you to pause it because you had to take these notes. I was like, let it keep playing. What are you doing?
Like, it's one of those songs that didn't make it onto the soundtrack, I think.
There's a lot of those. It's very sad.
But now we have to hear different music because Supergirl is already playing as we see Kaori and Ryo leaving what looks like Shibuya on their way to get to the villa.
It feels like when they left Hotel Sun City, which we believe is very likely to be in Shinjuku. Shinjuku is neighboring Shibuya just to the north of it, right? So when they're leading these dudes in all black away from the hotel so that the princess can go where she needs to go, it feels like they probably led them down south, and now they're like, ah, shit, we have to turn around and go back up the other way.
Right, because they were trying to draw them away from the true location, which was the villa. But yeah, Supergirl's already playing. We got this nice freeze frame of the Fiat, and that's the end of part 1.
It's a really good freeze frame, too. Just this shot of the Fiat. It's a really good angle.
Dutch angle.
This Dutch angle of the car and the cityscape in the background are very, very good.
But yeah, this is a really strong episode, really action-oriented. Ryo doesn't do hardly any No, I don't think he assaulted anybody this week. He was just talking about it.
He just really wanted a lot of women, but he didn't actually do anything particularly wrong other than talk mad shit.
Yeah, he didn't do anything egregious. He just paid for cabaret stuff, which is perfectly fine.
Which is perfectly legal and within the bounds of that financial transaction, okay? That's fine.
And so next week, we're going to see this story continue. Things are going to get really heated. There's going to be a lot more shooting. It's going to look like somebody dies or multiple people will die. We don't know.
Well,
actually, we do. We just can't tell you yet. But it's going to be real exciting, and it's going to affect some things that happen even later in the show.
And there's some things that are also going to carry over back into the manga 2 years after this anime episode was created. So, that's cool. The comparison between Robert and Mick are just very cool because they're definitely the same guy that just got written slightly differently.
Well, it's like that Office Pam meme. Like, corporate wants you to tell us the difference between these two photos.
They're the same picture.
Yeah, that's what it is between Mick and Robert.
Same thing. They're just the same guy.
It's the same thing.
So come back next time when we cover the 32nd episode of City Hunter 2. So long, my friend. The Last Shot Echoing in My Heart, Part 2.
And if you want to catch us outside this podcast, you can always find us both over on Twitter. For now, I'm at JoshKnightTheFirst.
And I'm at MarzGurl. Thank you all so much for listening to our 82nd episode of MokkoriPlay. And if you don't come back next episode, I'm getting revenge for Josh.
Kaylin, I'm right here.